Like the
Kamala Harris
store.
and former President
not you good people
Donald Trump are essentially tied. According to the latest poll from CBS News and YouGov, in the survey, Harris's support of 50% of likely voters nationwide compared to 49% for Trump. That's within the margin of error. Among likely black voters, the poll shows Harris leading Trump by 63 points, 81% to 18%. That's lower than 87% of black voters who voted for the Biden-Harris ticket in 2020, but an 8-point increase from Biden's numbers in the last poll conducted before he ended his campaign.
They would say most definitely going in the right direction.
Among young voters, Harris's lead over Trump is similar to the one Biden held in his last poll. According to the survey, Harris leads Trump by 26 points among 18 to 29-year-olds after Biden led by 22 points last month. In 2020, exit polls show Biden beat Trump by 24 points among that same group. CBS News is also out with its first battleground states estimates of the 2024 election cycle, which are gathered based on past polling, census data, and historical trends. According to the tracker, Trump and Harris are deadlocked in Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Trump holds leads within the margin of error in Georgia, North Carolina, and Wisconsin, while Harris leads within the margin of error in Nevada.
So, not really surprising here, John Heilman. I mean, obviously surprising if you look at all the polls, how most of them, the most recent polls have all, we've had a bit of a reversal where you heard Karl Rove coming in talking about the momentum seems to be on her side, and it does seem to be on her side right now. It seems to be on the Democrat side. She's pulled ahead by 1 or 2 points in most polls, which means it's tied. You look at the swing states, it means it's tied. What I find fascinating and completely predictable is the fact that Joe Biden was having biggest problems, and we've said it on this show forever, that Joe Biden would have to bring home younger voters. He would have to bring home people of color. That's what Kamala Harris appears to be doing here. She is bringing home people of color. She's bringing home younger voters of the Democratic Party. And the big question on who's going to be the next president of the United States is whether she can perform almost as well as Joe Biden did among older working class white voters in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So that's a $64,000 question, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's among the. I would broaden that $64,000 question now, Joe, to ask the question whether she can perform as well as Joe Biden did in 2020 with young voters, African-American voters, and Latino voters, because although she has, there's undeniably, the momentum is with her right now. She is performing better than Biden was prior to his decision to bow out, and actually better than he was throughout the last couple of years with all those groups. Her number, though, his number was way down from where his numbers were with those groups in 2020. She has made up, she's overperforming him in 2023, 2024, but she's still not up to the levels that he was at in 2020 with any of those groups. That's one of the things that she has to do. There's reasons to think if this momentum continues with all those voter segments that she can do that, and the numbers are all going in the right direction, but she's still not there. You know, if you look at, even when this, I'm trying to look at what the number here is on with African Americans as an example. She has right now is at 81 with 81 to 18 over Trump. Biden hasn't had 90% of the black vote in 2020. So I'll just say that there's no one on the Harris campaign doesn't realize that those are categories where they need to ride the momentum, the rise that she's had, and try to get her back to Joe Biden level of 2020 if she's going to be able to win the election in November.
So, Gene Robinson, the poll also has this tidbit about black voters. Back on July 18th, those surveyed, 58% said they were definitely going to vote. That number jumps to 74% now. So that is significant. We know that the Trump campaign has said they've tried to make inroads with those communities. Obviously, we've seen his numbers dwindle. It's a priority of the Harris campaign. So speak to us about the state of the race. That's part of it now, but it seems like the map's expanding because by the final days of the Biden campaign, he seemed to only have one path to victory, the Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan route, while for Harris, She's got options.
Yeah, no, she's got options. You know, this just in. She is going to match Biden's numbers among African-American voters. I mean, I am sure of that. And so, yeah, she expands the map because now, all of a sudden, what about Georgia? What about North Carolina? What, you know, there are, and what kinds of vote margins can she get out of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, out of Milwaukee in Wisconsin, out of Detroit in Michigan? I think these are significant gains that she has made. Even if you just look at African-American voters, and she's been a candidate for all of 2 weeks, right? So let it sink in at least for another couple of weeks, and we'll see where we are. It's very clear what direction she's headed.
You know, Donald Trump's always been obsessed with crowd sizes. Obviously, his first day as president of the United States was embarrassing for everybody involved in the White House because he was so obsessed with the sparse crowd.
He forced people
that
to lie about it.
Right, but you saw that still play out again in Georgia, and it played out with Kamala Harris's rally in Atlanta, which was pretty massive, and Donald Trump upset by the fact, I think, that it was larger, that hers was larger than his, also that people started to leave. AP reporting that a steady stream of people left during his 91-minute speech. But again, this is the sort of thing, crowd sizes don't win elections, but it's something obviously that has gotten in Donald Trump's head.
Yeah, it shows excitement. Donald Trump was in Atlanta Saturday. That's, as Joe mentioned, the same building where Vice President Kamala Harris held a rally just 4 days earlier. Before Trump even arrived at the Georgia State University Convocation Center, he was tempering expectations for the size of his crowd, writing on social media that Harris only filled the building because she had entertainers perform at her rally. But the Associated Press notes that was not the case. In the 25 minutes Harris spoke, in fact, Trump lost sizable chunks of supporters across his 91-minute speech. Yet Trump frequently returned to the topic of crowd size, even suggesting that school administrators conspired with the Harris campaign to keep his supporters outside the arena.
Crazy Kamala, ultra-left, you know that. She was here a week ago, lots of empty seats. But the crowd she got was because she had entertainers. The school administration stopped us from getting another 500, 600, even 1,000 people in. Thousands of people were told, no, I'm not happy about it. If they're going to stand in the way of admitting people to our rally, just imagine what they're going to do on Election Day. They got thousands of people, they won't let them in. A Harris presidency, you know why? Because they don't want to show that we're successful, that's all it is. They don't want to show. She has to go get entertainers. They start leaving as soon as she opens her mouth. By the way, the entertainer couldn't fill the place either. Even with the help of the school's trying to get students, please go. This is embarrassing to us. Please go.
This is one of these things where you ask, are you going to believe me or your lying eyes? The fact is the Harris rally was packed. There was a lot of excitement there, more excitement than we've seen at a Democratic rally in a very long time. It certainly reminded a lot of reporters there of Barack Obama in 2008. Just again, excitement that a lot of people have been saying has sort of been bottled up for quite some time for Democrats, and they're out there now. But Elise, you know, we've always said, we've always believed, I've always told people running for office that campaigns are about the future. They're not about the past. I could add to that, they're not about crowd sizes. They're not about grudges. They're not about resentments. They're not about all the things that fueled Donald Trump's campaign. And people say, well, he won. Yeah, he won in 2016. And I'm not going to go through the litany of years that Trump Republicans have lost from 2017 all the way through 2023. And it's because it's always resentment. It's always crowd sizes. It's always who he's going to, who's treasonous. It's always praising Vladimir Putin. It's all these really weird things. What if I said weirdos, insurrectionists, and freaks, the extremists that are far out there pushing a lot of the crazy stuff. And it's just, again, that's not where middle America is.
if Donald Trump stays out there and keeps bringing negative attention on himself, not any of his legal problems, just by what he did at the Atlanta rally, you know, talking badly about popular GOP governor, that was a great move in a state you need to win. And you can just see Donald Trump is responding to all of the enthusiasm surrounding Kamala Harris's campaign. And you've got the enthusiasm comes first, then comes the uptick in the polling, which we're starting to see, and then it's going to be the ballot. And Donald Trump is responding to a chain of events that is probably starting to feel a little bit out of control as he is just groping around, getting nastier and angrier and losing all sense of discipline. Every modicum that he had summoned for a week-long period, that's just clearly gone, evaporated, and he's back to old Donald Trump.